Well, it's my privilege to have the keynote session on the topic of the zero trust security. Well, I will try to portray from the practical aspect because I work very closely with the law enforcement agencies as well as with the judicial system of the country. And therefore, while working with these two agencies, I find in terms of the cybercrime, the most important element or the most important weakness in the system is basically the security. And from these aspects, what you understand is that we may have the technologies, we may have the applications, but then when we actually talk about the security, we have a lot of daunting issues which has to be resolved. Well, in fact, Keysight is doing a lot of work in the field of security. So few of my slides are just as a curtain raiser, but then I would like to most portray to you on the couple of the cases where I had worked and found that how the organizations were vulnerable because of the security not being properly implemented. Well, I think you all are from the industry. If at all I happen to teach some senior police official or some senior judge, probably I had to go in the depth of going from the basics to actually what from a technology perspective, legal perspective, so on and so forth. But since you come from the industry, so I'm sure that you may be well aware at what exactly is zero trust. Because today in the cyber world, you can't believe on anybody. I think the belief only has to come on the technology. But then when you talk about the technology also is driven by a human being. But all said and done, if you make the minimized uses of human being as far as the technology is concerned, mostly pertaining to security, I believe that we can have a better ecosystem in place. So basically, when you talk about a zero trust, an approach to design a security architecture where every interaction starts in an untrusted state. Specifically, if I talk from the banking sectors, this is one of the most vulnerable areas. In fact, in the last 15 days, last fortnight, I had about 3 to 4 banks. When I was talking to them or auditing their system, I found that even the best of the banks are vulnerable to the cyber attacks. They have the technologies, they have all the modern gadgets, but if you're not able to implement as per the laws of the land, if you're not able to configure in the way it has to be done to ensure that there is a zero trust security in place, it's of no use or no significance. Well, the zero security architecture, well, who are the users, how are they accessing the app or the applications, what are the conditions required to access the corporate resource. And when I'm talking about the corporate resource, let me give you a little legal sense also. And that is, when you're talking about a data to be stored in a system, in a server, or in a data center, let me tell you, as per the provisions of the land, it is an intermediary. An intermediary happens to be an organization which stores the data. Now, when you talk about the data, there are various categories of data. It's a sensitive data, it's a confidential data, it's a private data, and let me tell you, each element of these types of data are significantly important from a legal perspective also. You may say that, well, I'm a technical architect. My job is only on providing a solution and security. But I think you should also think from a legal perspective also, because nothing is secure. And to an extent, if you have done a reasonable security in place, and if a cyber breach takes place, then the law says that you are not accountable for that cyber breach. And therefore, under these circumstances, it's very important to put the proper controls, to have the proper access privilege escalations to ensure that the system is not being breached. Well, are the conditions required? What are the conditions required when you talk about a zero trust network? Well, role of the user in the network. In fact, just today morning, I was talking to one of the organization who provides services in the banking sector. They provide services to almost about 65 different banks in the country. And when I was talking to them, what I actually found is that today, in every organization, a cyber drill is a must. We may have, as I said before, technology, applications, well-designed architecture, but a cyber drill equally is important to ensure that not only the health of the network is sustainable, but at the same time to ensure that third-party breach doesn't take place. And I think for that, the most significant role, what has to be done is by the user. Today, the user is the weakest link, user is the most strongest link, but to make it a strongest link, a user, technology shall play a very pivotal and very important role. The health of the device is very important in a zero trust network. Users' physical addresses, event logs, user privilege risk, accept or deny access, regular scan and patches. I believe that, just a few minutes before, I was having one of my friends discussing with me that when you talk about the health of a network, we just basically do a VAPT test. And we say that, okay, if the VAPT test scan comes with a report saying that the problems are minor or major, doesn't make any sense. I have done my audit. I have followed the compliance. You have done the audit, you have done the compliance, but is it as per the law of the land? It's very critical. Regular scan and patches update, implement multi-factor authentications, force password reset, and the controlled session access. Where the zero trust implementations will visualize, mitigate, and optimize. That's something which is very critical in today's scenario. You have to visualize what's the problem, mitigate. Mitigate means have a properly risk assessment of the problems which are going on, and then optimize it to ensure that the breaches are the least. And that's where the zero trust architecture or the zero trust network plays a very significant role. Well, zero trust security implementations, what it has, limit access to data, use biometrics to authorize. I believe you all might have read that the CAG report which came on the Aadhaar system said that the biometric data somewhere is insecure. And that is the report which is given by the CAG team. It's not given by any private agency. And the report clearly signifies that the biometric data which is stored in the system is not secured. The data could be purged, the data could be mismatched, so on and so forth. Monitoring logs, network, access control, very important. What I talk about, the privilege escalation, so on and so forth. Authorization control, device management. Of course, today all devices what we use are intelligent devices, and the cloud services, which is one of the most paramount term in today's scenario, that all of us talk about cloud. But then do we require a cloud? Have we actually done a study onto that? Have you ensured that the cloud service what we use, where is the jurisdiction? What type of encryptions have been followed? If it is a dedicated server, how it is so? I think these are some very important questions to be answered to ensure that your data remains to be secure. Well, when you talk about the zero trust security, you have some of the important points. Identity, endpoints, the data, the applications, the infrastructure, and the network, all of them get combined together with proper securities in place. What are the benefits of a zero trust? Well, allows conditional access, prevents network access using stolen credentials and compromised devices, and enable users to be more productive. I'm more interested now to go with the case studies, but that's something which will give you an eye-opener as far as the zero trust network or the zero trust security is concerned. Well, the benefit of zero trust security eliminates the risk of data breach. If I talk about the data breach, India is in the top 5 as far as the data breach is concerned. It's a different matter that most of these cybercrime or data breach cases are not being recorded. Discards every malicious connections, source secure for remote workplace, and improved alerting and monitoring. These are some of the benefits of a zero trust security. Now that's the case study. I'll try to explain this because this whole investigation took me around 2 months, but I don't have that much of time, or nor you have that much of time to be there. But then I will try to tell you in 5 minutes what actually happened in the bank and how exactly a zero trust security or a zero trust network would have ensured that the bank would not have been victimized. Interestingly, if you look at the first portion of it, if you look at it, you'll find that the accused or the suspect made use of these workstations to create fake entries of RTGS and NEFT. I'm sure that all of you are knowing about RTGS and NEFT. If you are not knowing, last couple of years made us to understand what RTGS and NEFT is all about. So there were some fake entries which were being posted in the server. Now what happened was that this organization, this bank, had outsourced its activity of the RTGS and the NEFT services to one of the most prominent nationalized bank in our country. One of the most prominent nationalized bank. So what happened was that they used to create these entries, but these RTGS and the NEFT entries which have been posted in the server used to be done by a XYZ nationalized bank. And therefore, under these circumstances, if you see in the block 3 up over there, you'll see that the scheduler runs posts the entries in the out XML. So what happened is that this bank had different branches in different locations. And when they had the different branches in different locations, at each of these branches, the entries were posted into the system. Now they were being manually done. But once these entries were being manually posted, these entries would go to a centralized network. Now this centralized network had possibly all the securities in place. It had a digital signatures in place to ensure that each and every entries which have been posted from the different branches, from the different network of this bank would come into a centralized server. And once it comes in a centralized server, it will be sent to the nationalized bank by digitally encrypting the records. So there was no denying that the system was bad, but the implementation was bad. What happened was that when these entries were being sent to the nationalized bank, because that was the sponsor bank for this bank which were posting these entries from their system. So when these entries were being posted and sent to the nationalized bank, digitally encrypted. Let me tell you, when you talk about digital encryption, it's by and far considered to be one of the most secured way to ensure that the data is not vulnerable to any cyber attacks. And even if at all it is vulnerable, it won't be possible to be read across. So the data went to the nationalized bank, and the nationalized bank, on the request which was being sent by this bank, started executing this RTGS and the NEFT entries. Now while they did it, almost after 3 weeks, they noticed that these RTGS and NEFT entries which were being coming to this sponsor bank, all of them were not genuine entries. Some of them were fake and fictitious entries. But this sponsor bank never realized that these are fake or these are some fictitious entries which are being sent to them, and as a result, they used to pass these entries thinking that these are coming from the bank which had availed the service from this nationalized bank. After 3 weeks, it was noticed. And how it was noticed? It was noticed because there was a rapid increase in the RTGS and NEFT entries which were taking place. And when there was a rapid increase, after 3 weeks, they realized that these many NFT RTGS entries could not take place. And that's the time when they try to analyze the log sheets of all the entries which were being posted. And finally, after a week from then, it was concluded that there was a cyber attack. And when this was a cyber attack, well, all said and done, it became a big news. It came into the media. The chairman of the bank started running from pillar to post saying that, we did not do anything. We had the security in place. We had the digital signatures in place. We had the passwords in place. But then if you have a digital signature in place, as a USB token, if you connect it to your server, there is no need for any password to be known to the other users. 24 hours, that digital token was connected to this server. And all the entries which were being posted used to get digitally encrypted according to the scheduler which was been fixed and posted to the banks. What I mean to say once again, if there was a zero trust network in place, possibly we would have had a device management from which particular location the entries were being posted, because there were many entries which were being posted from fake identities, fake machines. There was no element to counterattack that these entries which were being posted were coming from the genuine system or from the genuine network. Point number 2, what I noticed during the investigation, I found that in this bank, the password what was used by one person in one machine, that password was known to everybody in that organization. Who came, who made the fake entries, from where it was made, nobody knew. So you had the password, but then that password was known to everybody. When you talk about the biometrics over there, they did not have the biometrics in place. Probably a biometric as an additional security would have ensured that who posted these entries, from which location, so on and so forth. And last but not the least, when these entries were being posted to the centralized bank or to that sponsor bank, they also took it in a very casual way that if it is coming with digitally encrypted to me, for me it is a gospel truth that it is being sent by the bank itself. Finally, you would be very interested to know what happened in the investigation. In the investigation, it was found that these attacks which were being there, it was from Nigeria. But it was not so. It was proxy, but then we decoded it. And we found that all these fake entries, the beneficiary of these particular fake entries were actually people practically from every part of the country. If I talk about a state, I'm talking about the state. There was from Maharashtra, there was from Karnataka, there was from Orissa, there was from Delhi, and the mastermind was somewhere sitting in Delhi. But then we couldn't catch the mastermind, but then we were able to catch all the middlemen into the system and interrogate into them. We found the basic weakness was the system was vulnerable for attack. We would have closed this. We would have closed this case thinking that it's from Nigeria. It was not from Nigeria. It was actually a localized attack which took place where the human happened to be the weakest link, and the weakest link human being understood that the system is vulnerable where the attacks could take place and have a fraud to be taken out. Well, the matter is still sub judice. We caught hold about some 28 people from all over the country. Well, they are there where they should be there at the time being. Well, when the trial starts, you will also come to know in the newspapers, but then that's not my job at this moment. My job at this moment is to make you understand if that was a zero trust network, a zero trust security in place, probably this type of an attack would not have taken place. The next part is, I'm sure that you may be aware of the Cosmos Bank fraud. This was also in the public domain. And in this, the Cosmos Bank fraud, well, once again, there was a fraud of almost 94 crores. But I'll just roughly take it 100 crores. There was a fraud of 100 crores. Well, at the time of accessing the system, it was once again found that the systems were vulnerable. Well, you are using your ATM cards from different location, and the switch of that ATM machine, if it is compromised, then you can get access to the server from where these fake entries could be made out. And this is what happened in terms of the Cosmos Bank. Way back in 3 to 4 days, about 94 crores rupees was being taken out. So what I finally mean is that, because of the time constraints, is that the vital and the most important thing, that Cosmos Bank fraud would not have taken place if there was a trusted network with minimized usage as far as the people are being concerned. I'm not saying that the people should be discarded. I'm saying that technology should be powerful to ensure that people commit less crimes and people are being trained to use the technology along with the land. And just give me 2 minutes, where I also have to tell you the Indian laws, but that's something which is very critical and very important. And that is, see these provisions. I'm from a technical field, but now I'm working on the legal side also. So the first part is that if the systems are vulnerable for any attack, and if you happen to be an intermediary, then you are liable to pay a compensation up to 5 crore rupees to the person so-called affected. This is not my section. This is what is the section as far as the IT Act is concerned. Well, you also have the section 43A, same on that part. Reasonable security practices are very important, and if reasonable security practices are not there, well, it is a cognizable offense. Well, going ahead, just not in terms of the civil compensation, just okay, 5 crore rupees has been paid and the job of the organization is all over. No. Along with it, there is a criminal proceedings also may take place on that organization for not having reasonable security practices in place. And that's what section 66 talks about. Last but not the least, you have got section 72 and section 72A, which talks about that if there is any data which is there in the system which is confidential, which is sensitive, which is private, if it goes to an unknown hands where there is no proper authorizations or no proper letter to be made, it is an offense which is criminal in nature. So what I mean to say is that you have such a wonderful opportunity today, because Keysight, I heard also about it, and well, I did my little study about Keysight technologies. I'm sure that these technologies are the future, and these technologies can play a very significant role to ensure that the systems work according to the need of the organization and not according to the need of the users. So I think with that, I have my the keynote speech went little more than 15 minutes, but I thought that I will discuss with you little heart to heart in making you understand that zero trust network is not the buzzword of future. I think it should be practically in place from today itself. So thank you very much for giving me an opportunity, and I sincerely hope that this couple of hours, whatever will be going on during this conference or during this sessions or during this seminar, would be important, pivotal, because you are decision makers within your organization, and you can play a significant role to ensure that cyber crimes are being eliminated to a larger extent. Thank you very much. Thank you.